and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I am your host, Tim Spring, and today we are joined by Indicio VP of Business Development, James Schulte, and he's here to discuss the disconnect between privacy, speed, and convenience, and how decentralized identity kind of brings that all together. Thank you for joining me today, James. Would you mind starting us off with a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. As Tim mentioned, my name is James Schulte, and I am on the business development side of the house here at Indicio, and I talk with customers and potential customers and partners all around the globe who are looking to tackle digital ID challenges and who are exploring verifiable credentials. So yeah, always excited to be on chatting with you, Tim.
Awesome. Well, yeah, excited to have you back. So let's start off with kind of discussing that disconnect that I mentioned. What happens when you try to have privacy, speed, convenience all at the same time? How do current systems kind of handle that? What are some of the wants that, customers out there kind of want more of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the couple of years that I've been doing this, talking with customers about the benefits of this technology and really identifying the pain points that they're looking to solve, what I've really boiled it down to, the main need that most customers, whether that be B2B play or the B2B2C play, they're looking for speed. At the end of the day, it just comes down to speed and and nothing else. And now some people say, no, there's definitely the benefits of fraud prevention that come from secure digital identity and the benefits of privacy. And I say absolutely, that is absolutely the case. However, there are a lot of solutions that can provide privacy and that can provide that data security. But the challenge is a lot of those methods are really slow. And because they are slow, some organizations cut corners or they sacrifice a couple different aspects. So an example of where people can sacrifice on one of those aspects is I'm thinking of the e-visa or a visa on arrival. You get to a country, you have your printed out PDF showing potentially passport information, demographic information. You present that at Customs Border Control. They look at it. They could scan a simple QR code on the document, and they let you through. That method of having a printed piece of paper, it's not safe at all. There's a lot that can be tampered with. You can leave your piece of paper on the airplane, and people can simply steal your demographic information. So there's a lot of privacy and safety concerns that come with that. So they've sacrificed on the privacy aspect in order to keep the speed of just showing your paper and going through. Where verifiable credentials come in is it captures both of that. Makes it so that your information can be secure and private and allows for that speed of transaction. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to speed. How can you keep the speed or improve the speed while keeping those other components? I think a lot of people in our industry focus on the fraud prevention aspects of the technology and the privacy preservation, which is extremely important. What customers at the end of the day really want is both of those things even faster. So that's really the play that people are looking for.
All right. So when you're talking to, someone who's still using PDF and, paper documents and things like that, do they recognize that, oh, it would be, really nice for this to be more private or anything? Or they're like, speed over everything. We're not, unless you can beat the speed of this paper document, hand it and go, we're not going to change. What does that conversation kind of look like?
Mm-hmm. So in most cases, they absolutely recognize that there are a lot of pitfalls with the methods that they use with a simple PDF document. For example, the other day I was talking with a woman who works in a registrar's office for a university, and they receive diplomas, they receive employment information or student learning record information via PDF, and they need to somehow verify that in order to allow the students credits to transfer or to integrate them into the system. And she was expressing to me, they get the PDF and oftentimes they just look at it and they say, okay, all right. And they recognize that some of that information could be falsified, but they simply don't want to take the time or spend the time, I should say, to have to call up the other institution by phone and talk to their registrar office to confirm that information manually because it's simply so slow. And so the benefit of speed to them outweighs the possibility of fraud that occurs. But what they've been seeing is that the amount of fraudulent information has been increasing. And there's, she's talking about how they have to, file court subpoenas. They have to go through a legal process if there's any harm that comes as a result of that falsified information. So it's, people balance out what is more important in this situation, and they make sacrifices that end up costing them time and money one way or another. So this is a perfect example of where a verifiable credential could solve that, make the process quicker, and not have to sacrifice any, privacy concerns or, increase the liability of receiving and accepting false information. So, in that example, you see how, there is a way to verify the information. It's through that phone call, right? But that phone call is just extremely slow. So what they're really looking for is something that can speed it all up.
Right, obviously, a lot of things are going to be a lot faster than a phone call to someone who could put you on hold or, anything like that. But how do verifiable credentials achieve both that speed and accuracy that people are kind of looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that a verifiable credential is essentially a representation of identity verification work that has already been done once, if that makes sense. So the issuer of the credential has already put in some sort of effort verifying, or hopefully they've done that effort of verifying that the information that they're packing into the credential is true or trustworthy. Once it's packed in that credential, it's transportable. So issued to the holder of the credential, who can present that to a verifier organization. That organization can receive the credential, and through the cryptography involved and the underlying technology, so that digital trust that's baked into the verifiable credential data model, the verifying organization can know that the information within that credential has not been tampered with or messed with along the way. And they can do that without having to call up the original issuing organization by phone or by wire or through even an API integration. It's simply not needed, because you know that the credential has stayed in its original format. So it's essentially like a sealed envelope that you receive and know, okay, the information in here has not been changed, and I trust the original issuing organization. Therefore, I know that these things line up with the requirements that we have. So that model, receiving verified information makes it so that information you receive is immediately actionable. So you don't have to look at it and open it up and inspect and say, okay, does this line up? Okay, let's call the passport issuance office to figure out if this number actually lines up. Let's call the DMV. Does this information line up with their records? They don't have to do that, because they know that the information is authentic.
Nice. So it sounds like obviously verifiable credentials have a bunch of different use cases that can kind of either speed up or basically save time in the case of calling to verify every student record that you get sent. How else do they apply to some different use cases, right? If a general enterprise wanted to use verifiable credentials, kind of what value would they see in it versus obviously border travel? There's going to be a lot more opportunities in my mind to save time.
Yeah. I think one that we can all relate to is dealing with passwords, usernames and passwords, just how infuriating it is to have to reset that every time you forget, or you misplace it, or your key management system doesn't save it, for example. I was reading a report not too long ago, I think it was from Bloomberg. It was they found that on average, employees at large enterprises are spending 11 hours per year resetting their passwords or dealing with a password issue. That's crazy. 11 hours per year, per employee, multiply that across a large organization, that gets really costly. And requires a lot of let's say IT help or IT resources as well to deal with that. And it just makes you mad. Life is short. You don't want to spend precious minutes of your day resetting a password to use a program that should know you by now, right? Now, obviously, there's obviously reasons why passwords have been kind of the default way of managing that, but there's a newer and better way, and obviously that's verifiable credentials is a great way of tackling that. And yeah, another example of this, coming from my conversations with financial institutions and banking organizations, they say that a major issue that they're dealing with is their customers falling for scams or phishing attacks. And ultimately, this costs the bank time and money as well, in addition to the customer potentially losing money, and the bank potentially losing a customer. So the value of having a secure two-way channel of communication between the organization and between the customer ultimately saves time in the long run. Also makes it easier for them to mutually authenticate each other when doing any sort of transaction. So instead of getting a suspicious text from someone who's claiming to be your organization and having to call your bank and say, hey, is this really you? Or your bank sending you a text saying, oh, hey, we've gotten this login here, is this really you? Call if this isn't you. That type of thing that requires time and is at the end of the day another bottleneck. Again, where verifiable credentials can be used to create that channel that doesn't require repeat authentication and verification.
So when customers they're like, all right, we're sold, it seems pretty quick and pretty cool. We're going to pull the trigger. Where do you kind of see them starting with that implementation? Because it sounds like kind of a pretty big, thing to implement.
Yeah. So typically a customer has some sort of business challenge or pain point in mind that they're looking to solve. And so they have a grand vision of what they want their ultimate solution to look like. We typically recommend starting small with a proof of concept or some sort of a pilot, and you can do that with a limited number of users or with one specific credential type to solve one specific problem or a few problems before rolling out to a larger ecosystem solution. So typically, stepwise approach. Add in the features as you test them out, as you add more participants to your particular ecosystem and grow from there. A great way to start with all of that is I think Indicio Proven Sandbox is a fantastic way. It's a complete out-of-the-box kit that comes with the components you need to create credentials, to issue them, comes with a digital wallet to be able to hold those credentials that can be integrated into an existing app or can be used as a standalone mobile application or cloud-hosted application. And then the verifier component to be able to receive and verify those credentials. So all those pieces right out of the box, ready to play around with and do your proof of concept testing and design work before you scale up into a larger production solution. And along the way, Indicio can provide the help to do that. We provide assistance in adding custom functionality for your particular use case. But there are already a lot of features that are up and ready to go and can handle some really cool use cases as it is. So, but yeah, we're always happy to help. If you have any particular use cases in mind or questions, we're always happy to chat and get you set up with the out-of-the-box tools.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about verifiable credential technology or learning how it works, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will continue to bring you some more educational content. If you have any questions or specific topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and leave a comment below. We'll be sure to read and address them. And thank you one last time to you, James. If someone would like to learn a bit more about anything that we've talked about today, where would you suggest they look?
Yeah, I recommend following us on LinkedIn, signing up for the newsletter. On LinkedIn, check us out. We always have new exciting news and press releases, and we've also recently started a series of infographics that are a quick way to get some really interesting industry statistics following the pain points that exist where verifiable credentials can really be helpful. So yeah, follow along and keep an eye out for it.